Hello, everyone. Welcome to Literary Fervor. I'm Dr. Neha, and I warmly welcome you to our UGC NET English Literature series. As you know, this is our very first class. So, today we are going to begin our journey through one of the most important topics in English literature, which is the chronology of English literature. Not only it is absolutely essential to cover this from the UGC NET English point of view, but also before studying individual authors, literary theories, poems, novels, and plays, it is equally important to understand the timeline of English literary history. Think of literary chronology as the very backbone of English literature. Once you understand where each author and literary movement belongs, the entire subject becomes much easier to study and remember. So today's lecture will provide a broad overview of the major literary periods. And in our upcoming classes, we'll study each age individually and in great detail. So let us begin. Uh, we know that the first major literary period is the Old English or Anglo-Saxon period, which extends approximately from 450 to 1066 AD. Now, this was an age dominated by the tribal kingdoms, warrior culture, and heroic values. Literature was primarily oral in nature and was recited by bards and storytellers. Themes such as courage, loyalty, fate, and honor were central to literary works. The most important work of this period is Beowulf, and this is the earliest surviving epic poem in English literature. The language of this period was Old English, which is very different from the modern English, and it is often difficult for the contemporary readers to understand. Now, the next period is the Middle English period, uh, which extends from 1066 to 1500 AD. Now, this period begins with the Norman conquest of England in 1066 AD. French and Latin influences enriched the English language and transformed the literary circle. Religion played a dominant role in literature. Mystery plays, morality plays, and religious writings became popular. The greatest literary figure of this phase, this period, was definitely Geoffrey Chaucer, whose masterpiece, The Canterbury Tales, provide a vivid picture of medieval English society through a collection of stories narrated by the pilgrims. Now, the Middle English period laid the foundation for the development of modern English literature. We we find a sort of transition, and we then enter the Renaissance phase. Now, this particular phase extends from 1500 to 1660. It is not like absolute, markation. Did not happen overnight. It took some time to transit from one particular phase to the other. So it's not like that overnight from 1558 itself the Renaissance phase started. This is just it is also 1558 is also the year when the great Queen Elizabeth came to power. So from 1558 to 1603, it is the Elizabethan age. From 1603 to 1625 is the Jacobean age. Then 1625 to 1649 is the Caroline age. And in after that, 11 years of the Commonwealth period. So these are also classified under the Renaissance phase. Before that, like when Philip Sidney Spencer, they were writing, so they were also the Renaissance writers. So it's not like overnight, you know, things started. So it took a while for the transition to happen, and whatever dates and demarcations are mentioned here is like based on the general consensus. Okay. So We know that the period produced some of the greatest writers in literary history. William Shakespeare was writing in that particular phase, and his remarkable tragedies, comedies, historical plays, we like they have all made an indelible mark. At the same time, you have university wits writing. Marlowe was active under the university wits. Then you have, Francis Bacon was there, Ben Jonson. I already spoke about Edmund Spenser and Philip Sidney, who were there during the Renaissance phase. So drama flourished during this time, and the establishment of public theatre transformed the literary culture. Within the Renaissance, we also come across the metaphysical poets, particularly during the 17th century. So, led by John Donne, these poets combined intellectual depth with emotional intensity. Their poetry employed conceits, paradoxes, wit, and philosophical reflection. They explored themes of love, religion, mortality, and human relationships through highly imaginative comparison. Now, the next phase or the next major period is the neoclassical age, also called as the age of reason. And it extends approximately from 1660 to 1798. Now, it is often called as the age, as I told you, age of reason, because this period was all about logic, reasoning, order, discipline, balance, and rational thought. Writers looked towards, classical Greek and Roman literature as the very models of excellence. Satire became one of the dominant literary forms. Alexander Pope was writing during that time. Dryden was there. So, like, based on these prominent writers, the age is also classified as such. Like, from 1660 to 1700, it is called as the age of Dryden. Then, from 1700 to 1745, it is classified as age of Pope. Then, age of Johnson from 1745 to 1798, when Samuel Johnson was writing. So, it's also about the prominent writers who defined the era through their different traits that the period is classified. Okay, so literature during this period sought not only to entertain but also to instruct and reform society. Okay, in reaction to the excessive rationalism, we have the Romantic Age, which followed the neoclassical age. So it starts from 1798 with the publication of the Lyrical Ballads, a very famous work, a combined work by William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge. And it is considered as the very beginning of Romanticism. So Romantic writers, they celebrated imagination, emotion, nature, individual freedom, childhood, and the power of subjective experience. They rejected rigid rules and emphasized upon the personal expression. Major Romantic poets include William Wordsworth, Coleridge, Shelley, Keats, and Byron. Their work spirit. Their works continue to inspire readers through their exploration of beauty, creativity, and the human spirit. Next is the Victorian Age, which extends from 1837 to 1901, and it corresponds to the reign of Queen Victoria. 1837 is the year when Queen Victoria ascended to the throne. So, this was a period of rapid industrialization, scientific advancement, imperial expansion, and social transformation. While technological progress brought prosperity, it also created social inequalities and moral dilemmas. The novel became the dominant literary form of the period. Charles Dickens, he exposed the social injustices through his fiction, while Thomas Hardy explored the conflict between individual and society. The Bronte sisters, George Eliot, Robert Browning, and Alfred Tennyson were, they were also equally contributing to the Victorian literature. So, Victorian writers, they often grappled with questions of faith, morality, science, and social responsibility. And, after this particular age, modern age followed. Now, the modern age, it approximately ranges from 1901 to 1945, and it emerged in response to the profound global changes, particularly the two world wars. Many traditional beliefs and values came under scrutiny in this particular time. Many traditional beliefs and values came under scrutiny here. Writers felt that the modern world was fragmented, uncertain, and disoriented. Modernist literature experimented with form, language, and narrative technique. Stream of consciousness, symbolism, and fragmented structures became common literary devices. Now, important modernist writers include T.S. Eliot, Virginia Woolf, James Joyce, W.B. Yeats, and D.H. Lawrence, to name a few. Now, following the Second World War, we enter the postmodern phase, which continues from approximately 1945 to the contemporary time, to the present time. Now, postmodern literature challenges grand narratives and absolute truths. It questions certainty and embraces ambiguity, irony, parody, metafiction, and intertextuality. The writers here often blur the boundaries between reality and fiction, encouraging readers to question established assumptions about truth, identity, and representation. As we can see, English literature has evolved continuously over centuries, reflecting changes in society, politics, religion, science, and human thought. So let us just quickly revise the chronology. Old English period from 450 to 1066, Middle English period from 1066 to 1500, Renaissance from 1500 to 1660, Neoclassical age from 1660 to 1798, Romantic age from 1798 to 1837, Victorian age from 1837 to 1901, and modern age from 1901 to 1945. The postmodern age is from 1945 to the contemporary time. So, remember, like today's lecture serves as an introduction and roadmap. In our next classes, we will study each literary age separately, beginning with the Old English period. We will discuss its historical background, the major authors, literary features, important texts, examination oriented fact, previous year's questions, and revision strategies for UGC NET English. So, with these words, I would like to conclude my lecture today, and would also like to thank you all for joining me in the first lecture. I look forward to meeting you in our next class as we explore the fascinating beginnings of English literature. Until then, happy learning and keep reading. Thank you.